It is week 21 of the NHL season, and the intensity has went to another level in the race for the playoffs. The entire standings are a mess. It is a war zone in the East, and in the West, well, it's a pillow fight. We got superstars chirping fans, speaking their mind about coaches. Coaches themselves are having a rough go at it. No one still has any clue what goaltender interference is yet, and all while this is going on, we're witnessing one of the greatest stretches of hockey that we've ever seen from the MVP frontrunner. It is just ramping up for the NHL playoffs, so let's look at everything that happened in week 21 of the NHL season. Starting Sunday, our two teams both hanging on by a thread in the Jets and Blues. St. Louis can't decide if they want to be the usual spring wagon that they are or if they want to tank. So tonight, they choose tanking, letting Kyle Connor step in all alone. That's all she wrote. Jets are one step closer to the dance. Lucky for them, the Sharks don't gain any ground because Laurent Brossoit hasn't played in about 2 years and gets welcomed back by the Sens offense. They put up 6 on him, plus an empty netter to win 7-4. Macklin Celebrini says this stick and completely crashes out on the post. There you go. I'm sure CCM will cover the cost there. He's bitter, and he should be, because the Sharks need every point that they can get, and they don't get any tonight. Then in Montreal, we have John Carlson making his Ducks debut. It looks wrong, it feels wrong, it is wrong, but it is what it is. Also, Habs fans know this one. Death, taxes, and Kirby Dach getting hurt. Jeffrey Viel blows him up, goes from bad to worse too, as 2.5 minutes left from them getting a point in OT. Jeffrey Viel again with a no-look dish right to Cutter Gauthier, the game winner. That is nasty. Viel Parmesan was on fire tonight. That assist as the Ducks win. Let's go to the Leafs versus Wild. Matt Zuccarello, 5'9" on a good day, wants to take on 3 Leafs at once. It's the right team to do it to. No one's going to hurt you on that team, that's for sure. But the Leafs, they can't even do anything right, and that includes losing. They called up Bo Grew, and the guy can't stop scoring. 2-goal game, Leafs win, and take 5 out of a possible 6 points on this road trip. That is just fantastic for the tank job. On to the Diddy Bowl between the Preds versus Oilers. Edmonton's coach, Chris Knobloch, just flat out came out and said that Connor Ingram is our guy. Jari's the backup, and deal with it. And that's a good choice because Ingram stopped 26 of 27 shots in a 3-1 Oilers win. But the bad news is that Leon Draisaitl had to leave the game with an injury. It looked pretty harmless, but that would be no bueno for Edmonton if it's long term. Finally, we have the Panthers versus Kraken. The Panthers come in on a 3-game winning streak, but it's too little, too late for them. Bobby McMann, ever since being traded from the Leafs, has turned into Bobby McJesus. Has another goal and an assist in this one. 5 points in 2 games for him. The Kraken pull off a statement 6-2 win and are now back in the first wildcard spot to end Sunday. Let's go to Monday. Red Wings versus Flames. Everyone's arseholes are puckered up in Detroit with them having no Larkin and in danger of slipping out of a playoff spot. So we call showtime. Patrick Kane, when you need him most on a breakaway, sends this one so upstairs it damn near hits the roof. He had a 2-goal game. Detroit gets a much-needed win to snap their 3-game losing streak. And breathing down their neck is Boston. Here's that bowl of pasta you ordered. Penne alla Pastrnak. Toe drags the soul out of the D. He's got him sliding out the Zamboni door for the unreal goal. Maybe the SeatGeek goal of the week right there. This is an Eastern Conference game, so it needs OT, where Paul Cotter goes backhand, forehand, start the car. That's the game. Then we had the breadman Artemi Panarin back in New York after being traded for some duct tape and a cheese string. Kings made easy work of New York with Panarin getting an assist, and Kopitar shakes hands after and hits quick with a clean dap up. Those fellas went toe-to-toe with the Hawks dynasty back in the day, and it's sadly coming to a close. As for the Dallas Stars, they had the quietest 15-game point streak in the league going, but Utah comes in and smacks them around. Keller scored from the Rockstar zone on the goal line, which counts for 2 goals. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. Mammoth got a huge win there. Then finally, the Penguins versus the Avs and the return of Evgeny Malkin from the 5-game suspension he got from slapping Dahlin in the neck with his twig. Some of you kids don't know a thing or two about prime Evgeny Malkin, and it's a damn shame. This guy was a Terminator, always played his best when Sid was out of the lineup, and an absolute king of the spinning backhand, all of which was the case tonight. No Sid, hits the Spinorama backhand goal, has a 3-point night. Penguins spank the Avs 7-2, and what a story they have been so far this season. Now, you know what time it is. Before Tuesday's games, we got to thank our sponsor, SeatGeek, for today's video. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app with over 28 million downloads. There's more than 70,000 listed events from sports to concerts to festivals and more. You know how it works by now. You browse seating on a scale of 1 to 10. If it's green, that's a damn good deal. You should snatch up those tickets so you can go to the game for a great price. The best way to use it is before a game on the app on your phone, where you can snag some unreal last-minute deals. Summer's almost here, which means that the World Cup is right around the corner, and you can get tickets right now on SeatGeek. You know they hooked us up with a code to get you some great deals too, so if you hit the link in the description to download the app, it'll automatically apply the code HOCKEY2026 so that you can get 10% off your next pair of tickets. I use SeatGeek for every live event I go to, and I go to a lot of them for the channel. It's the best way to experience a game live on a great deal, so get the app, use the code, and enjoy your next game with SeatGeek. Let's start Tuesday with a huge game between Montreal and Boston. Both teams are neck and neck in the standings, and so just to piss everyone off, they go to OT, where you could probably guess who got the game winner. It's Mr. Overtime himself, Cole Caulfield. He becomes the first Hab in 30 years to score 40 goals in one season. One of the youngest teams in the league is doing something special. Next is Islanders and Leafs. You know how this goes. New York takes their 2 free points, and that pisses off Columbus, as they've been one of the hottest teams in the league ever since they made the coaching change. And in this one against Carolina, we get the heavyweight tilt of the season. Nick Deslauriers versus Mathieu Olivier. They're exchanging some rights, some lefts, and they even tap each other on the head after in respect. Just two dogs going at it. The Jackets, though, are on an all-time heater. Big 5-1 win and are just 1 point back of a playoff spot. Then we go to former Blackhawks captain Nick Foligno facing off against the Chicago Bedards. And the first shift, Michael McCarron, ba-boom, blows up Bedard, but the kid's better when he's in the mix. He gets 2 assists, including this one to Nazar to tie the game, but Master Rat Zuccarello, one-timer, drops the knee for the hockey card and calls it a day. Then to the Preds and Jets, 2 teams who are not out of it at all, even though it seems like they should be. But if you're keeping track, you got to take another shot, because another game goes to extra time where Ryan O'Reilly gets the shootout winner. The wild card race in the West is just completely up for grabs. That makes the Oilers versus Sharks game a big one. Celebrini versus McDavid, but the biggest news going into this game is that it turns out Leon Draisaitl is going to be out for the remainder of the regular season. That causing some panic in Edmonton, but the Oilers actually get some help from their depth in this game. 5 goals, Oilers win with McDavid only in on 1 of the goals, but it's going to be an anxious one down the stretch here for both of those teams. Also, do you know it's been 2 months since Elias Pettersson scored a goal? Yeah, me neither, but he scores twice against the Panthers as they lose Tuesday's toilet bowl. Meanwhile, Bobby McJesus is still on fire. Another goal, #thanks Toronto, 4 goals in 3 games since being traded. Too bad Kucherov was just sitting in his rocking chair all night with a schmoke and a pancake, just lighting everyone up. Hat trick, 5-point night. The man just does it every single year, and he's now second in NHL scoring. Despite Tampa's win, though, Buffalo just takes care of their own business, shutting out Vegas. They asked Darlene why they've come together so much as a group. He said it was drinking beers, which absolutely, you need that. But look at how every Sabre on the ice responds when McNabb hits Benson. These guys get it in every game. They look more and more ready for playoff hockey. Midweek begins with the Devils versus Rangers. Biggest news out of New Jersey was Jack Hughes being sour about him not getting the Olympic puck, which invited all of Canada to try and dunk on him. But it's hard hearing people when you got the gold medal hanging around your neck, though. And ever since, he's been a monster. Another goal and 2 assists in this one. No one loves playing the Rangers more than Jack Hughes. Then we had the return of Sid the middle-aged man back from injury since Radko Gudas snatched his kneecap at the Olympics. He comes out of the gate and scores the Penguins' opening goal because he's the GOAT. Simple as that. Sid was involved too, got in the mix with Mr. Svechnikov, and then went to the box where he and a fan threw some friendly chirps at each other. This game was a barn burner overall. Grab the vodka and take another shot because we got OT again, where Sean Walker gets the winner. Moving to the Sens versus Caps, Cole Hudson, Lane Hudson's brother, makes his NHL debut. He looked fantastic to me in his first game. If you're wondering, he was a mid-second rounder, by the way. No one took him earlier for the same concerns they had about his brother Lane, which is size. Hilarious. Caps had themselves a night. Wilson was dummying guys. Hudson has his first career goal on an empty net as Washington gets a crucial 2 points. On the Flyers and Ducks, Trevor Zegras makes his return to Anaheim and gets an ovation, but it's the former Flyer and most loved man in Philly, Cutter Gauthier, scoring again. He is having a monster season with 35 goals. Now listen, you're absolutely going to be smashed if you keep following the OT or extra time shot rule by the end of this video, so mix in a water if you do, while Philly mixes in a win for themselves as Noah Cates grabs the OT winner. Finally, we had the big dogs going at it in the Stars and Avalanche. Both teams are far and away the top 2 in the league standings, but the story in this one was Jake the Snake Ottinger. 33 saves on 34 shots, stopped everything in the shootout, and all of a sudden Dallas is now just 2 points behind the Avalanche for the top spot in the lead and avoiding a first round matchup from hell against the Minnesota Wild. Thursday presented us with some big games on for the Eastern Conference playoff race. The Bruins, they put their balls on the table right away, smacking the Jets 6-1. Buckle up low because we got theatrics in Sens versus Islanders. 2-2 with 15 seconds left. 3-point game is no bueno for Ottawa, and Brady Tkachuk knows it. Puck is dancing in the crease and he pokes it home. That could be the singular goal that saves the season for Ottawa. That outcome matters to Columbus, but Braden Schneider is using his head to help the Rangers tank. Just heads this in like Giorgio Chiellini in the box in the 90th minute to score on his own net. Blue Jackets are something else right now. They got points in 10 straight games for them, which means that the Islanders are now on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. That raises the stakes big time between Montreal and Detroit, where Mike Matheson sells the farm. All-time pizza, hot and ready, fumbles it right to DeBrincat with 3 minutes left. He goes upstairs as Detroit gets a massive regulation win. Then we move on to the Stanley Cup final rematch, Oilers versus Panthers. Connor McDavid will indeed turn into the Joker. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Tristan Jarry is his goalie, Matthew Tkachuk owns his soul. Draisaitl's done for the regular season, and now they come out and lay an absolute egg against the team that has taken 2 rings away from them entirely. 4-0 loss, and it just doesn't seem like the Oilers can find another gear this season. Now this is a rare sight. Here is Vancouver's highlight of the season. Kevin Lankinen puts his bid for SeatGeek Play of the Week. Cross ice, he slides over and flashes the leather for the Chiquitas in the crowd. Oh my goodness, that is glovely. That was also it for Vancouver. They lost that game and really no one's shocked. Then we have the ultimate mojo matchup between the Sharks and Sabres. 2 teams everyone wants in the dance, but the Sabres wagon is too damn powerful right now. 5-0 shutout. Everyone wants to say that they play a great run and gun, riverboat style of hockey, but nuh-uh. Look deeper. They're a lot better defensively this year, and they got goaltending, so that helps. Meanwhile, Savage Bedsy is back. First, they take another run at him, and this time there's a way better response as everyone steps up. That pissed him off, so he steals the puck, comes in on a B-way, buries on the backhand, and then lays more chirps for the crowd. No one has more beef with the road fans than Bedsy himself. That right there is the game winner for the Chicago Bedards. Now the Preds, they take the battle of mid between them and the Kraken, 2 teams who love being painfully average this year, yet they still have a chance to make the wild card spot in the West. I'm also officially appointing Vegas as the frontrunner for Fugazi of the Year award. They're 2-8 in their last 10, yet somehow still top 3 in the division. Thanks for the pity point, Gary, as they've now been shut out in back-to-back home games. Finally, let's talk about Philly here for a second. They've been red hot as of late. They need to basically run the table to get in, and they do, courtesy of another Zegras special on the shootout. It takes Zegras 2 to 3 business days to get to the goalie, but when he does, he makes him look lost at sea. Flyers win in the shootout and are now 7-2-1 in their last 10 games to end Thursday. Friday starts off with the number 1 team in the East beating Toronto in OT, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, quick question. Are we believers in the Hurricanes this year, or is this another year where they fall short? Brandon Bussey looked like a good story earlier in the season, but he's been kind of iffy down the stretch. Is this another time where we got to rely on FredEx, same-day delivery, Frederick Anderson to get them over the hump, or do they finally just find a way to pull through now that the Panthers aren't going to be there and be their boogeymen? That doesn't mean, though, that the Panthers have stopped being the Panthers, because watch this. AJ Greer is going to shove Connor Zary into the boards from behind, 5 minutes, and a major for you can't do that. The Department of Panther Safety may just let him walk scot-free, but What else is new? What are you going to do? Florida loses again, and everyone's going to riot if they find a way to win the draft lottery, which is a real possibility right now. It could also be one of the Devils or Caps to do it also, although Cole Hudson is having himself a week. He's out here pissing off Jack Hughes. He probably told him that the gold medal puck belonged in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which just ticked him off. A little more salt in the wound, too, as the Caps win 2-1. Also, the Avs become the first team in the league to clinch a playoff spot after beating the Chicago Bedards. Not surprising with how good they are and how ass the rest of the West is, especially the Pacific, who is currently owned by the Ducks. One of the younger teams in the league has taken a big step under Joel Quenneville. They beat Utah, and it could have them finishing with a division title when it's all said and done here to end Friday. Now let's move to Saturday, where we still got no clue what goaltender interference is. Penguins D gets bulldozed into the 10D. Puck goes in, so Pittsburgh challenges, and Gary says it is still a goal. I don't know. I don't get it. This is a picture earlier in the year on a goal that was called back, and the player's toenail is barely touching Shesterkin's pad here. That is going to be fun to decipher in the playoffs. I'm sure it's going to decide a series, and then there's going to be a riot. Now, you can bet your ass that pissed off Sid, the middle-aged man, he comes in for the shootout winner and buries. Side note about the Penguins, Erik Karlsson is turning back the clock over there. He scored the game-tying goal and has 18 points in his last 11 games. Speaking of turning back the clock, so is Steven Stamkos. 3-point night against the Las Vegas Fugazis. Preds beat them and are now in a playoff spot since Buffalo won again, beating LA. The unfortunate news is that the Sharks' cup prophecy is slowly dying. They're putting up a fight, though, literally. Ryan Reeves and Garrett Wilson throw down. Reeves dislocated his finger and then just pops it back in the box afterwards. No big deal. Flyers stay hot, though, sweeping the West Coast. However, no one is hotter than Columbus. They could go down as one of the best coaching changes in league history. They win in Seattle and are now 18-2-4 under Rick Bowness. That is a certified wagon in my book. So are both the Stars and Wild, who are Rochambeauing tonight in what is most likely the first round matchup. This was a goaltending duel all the way through to OT, where Dallas somehow leaves Vladdy Tarasenko home alone like Kevin McAllister. He's got enough time to pitch a tent and start a family, as that's the game, as Minnie closes the gap a tiny bit on Dallas to try and get home ice. Meanwhile, a lot going on for the wild card race in the East. Islanders versus Habs. New York, for the first time in forever, is on the outside looking in on the playoff race. They need this one, but it's Saturday night, which means it's like the bat signal for Cole Caulfield to have a legacy game. Hat-trick performance. This sick puppy has 19 goals in 19 Saturday night games. Habs spank the Islanders 7-3 and make Patty Waugh absolutely sick to his stomach to watch. At least the saving grace is that Matty Schaefer is a superstar. He's already got 22 goals on the season. Over in Ottawa, the Lord Tank Commander William Nylander with the all-time beer league special, just zipping a wrister right at Stolarz' head in warm-ups. He had to leave and was ruled out of the game. Hilarious. The Leafs are a disaster, and the Sens are thankful for that as they take their 2 points. I'm telling you, if they make it in, no one's going to want the smoke with the Sens. Ottawa fans were letting Toronto hear it too, as they were chanting, "You need Marner" at the end of the game. Going to take a lot more than Marner to fix that circus, though. Unfortunately for the Sens, they are chasing both Boston and Detroit, who are going head-to-head. This is an absolute game from Jeremy Swayman. 41 saves on 43 shots. Boston wins in regulation to make everyone's arseholes in Detroit a little bit tighter moving forward. Then we had the battle of the two top scorers in the league. Connor McDavid comes in just 1 point ahead of Kucherov, and although he scores, Nikita Kucherov is an absolute machine. He gets a pair of goals and assists, including his first career shorty. 4 points on the night. That is 12 points in his last 3 games. He's now 2 points ahead of McDavid in 7 fewer games. He's on his way to win his third Art Ross trophy, and at some point, the conversation may be, is Nikita Kucherov the best player on the planet? Because just talking numbers, it's hard to argue otherwise. After the game, McDavid is somewhat called out his coach, saying Tampa is perfectly coached while Edmonton is just not at their level. He also called the Pacific Division an absolute pillow fight right now, and he ain't wrong. The West as a whole, aside from 3 teams, is pretty much a joke, especially when you compare it to the East. And so that sets up a busy Sunday, starting with the Hurricanes and Penguins. An absolute beatdown, 5-1 win from Carolina. Could very well be a round 2 matchup in the playoffs. Caps, on the other hand, they're likely golfing early, but Ovi from his office with the piss missile like we've seen 1,000 times. That's because we basically have. He scores his 1,000th career goal, playoffs and regular season combined. Just a legend. At this point of his career, he's being powered solely by beers and Cheetos. He hasn't started one D-zone draw at all this year, which is hilarious. They just use Ovi for the cannon release, and that is it. Avs win in OT, though, thanks to Dwayne the Brock Nelson saying, let's go home. Connor Bedard, also having himself a week, showing why they called him the Chicago Bedards, gives his best impression of a shady car salesman selling backhand all day and then goes forehand last second. That is pretty woman. The Preds, though, are in a mojo. Philip Forsberg says, give me that thing, does it all himself and wins it in OT. That's 4 in a row for Nashville now, who's finding their mojo at the right time here, getting in a playoff spot. Then on to the Jackets versus Islanders. This is basically a playoff game, and what do you know? We got another goaltender interference call, almost identical to the Pittsburgh one we saw with the defender getting pushed into his goalie, but the league decides they flip a coin, it lands on no goal. So that is the verdict. Penguins fans are losing their marbles watching this game. That exact play was called a goal against them, and especially because this game matters for their playoff sake as well. This was a Thoit one all the way through, but Sorokin gets his league-leading 7th shutout. The Islanders need that, and that win has kicked Detroit out of the playoff picture, and all of a sudden the Yzer plan is once again in jeopardy. Good news for Vegas. They finally get it in the win column to end the week. Doesn't mean you're still not Fugazis, though. The Flames, however, put a minor dent in their tank mission, beating Tampa. A little late there. Probably could have used that win in 2006 for the Cup final. All while the Sabres and Ducks decided to have a barn burner. I don't know why, but these two teams are somewhat mirrors of each other in each conference. Young and upcoming teams that have surpassed all expectations this season. They go back and forth all night. Buffalo comes back from being down by 2, but Troy Terry says, give me the check, please, as the Ducks continue to run away with the worst division in hockey. That is bad news bears for the Kings, who lose to Utah in OT to just basically reinforce what we've seen this week in the Pacific being a total dumpster fire. Checking the standings to end the week. The East is an absolute war zone, while 95% of the West can't decide if they want to go to Cabo in April or compete in the NHL playoffs. The good news is that they're all so bad that even the teams in the bottom 10 of the league can still have a good chance to make it. So, what do you think of week 21 of the NHL season? Who surprised you? Who pissed you off? Let us know in the comments down below. We've got a couple breakdowns coming this week, so make sure you follow the channel by subscribing and turning on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing for the NHL season.